30 for 30 this week, we have Illini softball coach Lance McMahon. He's the pitching coach in charge of the Illini Arms this year, and they're getting ready to kick off their season this weekend, headed to Florida to take on some Big Ten opponents. It's an all Big Ten schedule this year, so it's something a little different. But obviously, they're excited after missing last season. They got to be excited to get back on the dirt. What are you thinking, Lance, right now?
Yeah, it is super exciting. We're approaching the 1-year mark since our last official game. And, this year we've had an extended preseason. So I know the girls are super, super excited to get outdoors, get on the dirt, get some vitamin D, and see some new faces and some new opponents. So yeah, we're super stoked.
Vitamin D is good for COVID too, so maybe that's a good thing. That's what they say. So
Yeah.
it'll keep you guys safe down there. So obviously it's been a weird year for you as you go into this season. So I'm going to ask you a couple things that I don't know that you can answer. What do you think your team's strengths are going into this season? And I know it's hard because a lot of these girls you've never really seen play in the action. You know what I mean? You haven't really seen them play in Big Ten play.
Yeah, for sure. I think last year we were young in a lot of positions. This year, we do return a lot of our starting lineup. But again, it is in a limited capacity. So we have had an extended break here, and it's been fun to see kind of the trends that develop through college softball. And it kind of looks like offense has taken over a little bit. Oklahoma hit 13 home runs in their first game of the year, single game. And it kind of feels like the defense is just a little bit lacking overall. But for us in general, we have our entire infield back. We have our entire pitching staff back. We've added a few arms. So we feel pretty confident that we have the kids in place to go out and compete for a Big Ten championship. We'll just have to see how the pieces fall into place, but we feel super confident. We are just missing that Big Ten experience factor. Unfortunately, we were about a week away from Big Ten play last year before everything got shut down. So not a lot of these kids have Big Ten experience, but a lot of other teams are in the same boat too. So we're excited and ready to hit the ground running here.
As far as your pitching staff, you've been able to add a couple girls who were really successful at other schools. And you were excited. I know she started off last year. You brought in a transfer from Youngstown State last year who had a fantastic year there, set strikeout records, and then she comes in last year. And she actually looked like she was really effective. I mean, her record was only 500, but she really threw the ball well for you. Do you feel like it's Addie Jarvis, right? And so you've got a really good player coming in there to mix with the ones you already have. How's she developing on this past year?
Yeah, she was a little injured in the fall, so she was in and out a little bit in the fall. And then the spring and through Christmas break to put a ton of work in. And I feel like she's really starting to hit her stride within the last 3 to 4 weeks here. Has been really throwing the ball with a good amount of velocity, spinning the ball really well. Probably the best she's looked since I've seen her. Again, we've only had her for 1 full calendar year now, and that's even in a limited capacity given COVID. But I feel like she is in a really, really confident space right now. Her and Sydney Sickles, our other, junior pitcher now, were really kind of our 1-2 punch last year. So they look like they're going to just pick up where they left off last year. So it's been exciting, and I know Addie's ready to go.
And Sydney is another one. She's got a lot of experience for you coming in, and even though she missed last year, she had the experience before, and she's a little bit of a different kind of pitcher when you watch her. I know that maybe guys who don't follow softball, but I mean, this girl can really spin it. I mean, she gets it. You go back to the dugout. I know kids go back to the dugout wondering why they can't hit it. I mean, it's not that it doesn't throw that hard, just the ball moves, it spins, and she's really effective with that.
Yeah, that has always been her bread and butter, so to speak. So this offseason, we've been working on, adding a little bit of a changeup, throwing down in the zone a little bit more. Like you said, she's a good up ball spinner type, and she has increased her velocity 3 or 4 miles an hour. So it's not might have did her freshman year. She has made a lot of really good strides, not only in the circle, but in a leadership capacity for us too. Like you said, she has really the most experience on our team outside of Bella Loya, our senior catcher. So she is going to be a mainstay for us, no doubt. But she does everything really well, but it's just her leadership and how she carries herself that is really makes her who she is. So we're super excited about that. Again, we have some newcomers on the pitching staff, so I'm really excited to see how she can put them under her wing and get the ball rolling here.
One thing about your pitchers, and sometimes you get in this, you look at schools and they recruit like a certain type of pitcher, like we're going to get this pitcher or that pitcher. One thing about you've got all different, all shapes, all sizes. They all throw a little different. You've got, Tori McQueen's a left-hander you have coming in. She's different than Addie or Sydney. And so you've got a really nice mix. Is it going to be maybe maybe you don't have a Fouts like they have at Alabama or something like that, but you've got the ability to kind of mix and match and do things as a staff.
Yeah, and it's one thing when I first got here, we really wanted to develop over time, and it does take a lot of time to really get the pieces into place. But with the addition of Tori McQueen, a freshman from Indiana, it's really going to give us a lot of flexibility in matchups. Again, we've already looking at a lot of Big Ten teams with a lot of lefty hitters. Tori could come in there and throw even 2 innings to those lefties and get them off balance a little bit. And then, like I kind of said before, the velo change, Addie Jarvis throws a little bit harder. She's in the mid 60s. Sydney's a little bit low to mid 60s. And the velo change with that could give us a good setup. I'm looking forward to it. Whenever I was coaching in the NPF with the Bandits, we had 7 really good arms. So we got to do that. We got to truly manage the staff. And I feel like this year is probably the first year at Illinois where we can do that as well. And playing a team 4 times in the Big Ten, we couldn't have picked a better year for that, for sure.
Yeah. Coaching in the NPF, that's kind of like a kid in a candy store right there, isn't it? I mean, you get some pretty elite athletes there.
Yeah, it was just All-American after All-American after All-American. We drafted Kelly Barnhill as the #1 overall pick, who was just outstanding at the University of Florida. And we had some lefties in there. We had Paige Lowry from Oklahoma, and Haley Wagner from Michigan. So we got to do that. We got to say, hey, there's 5 lefties coming up, 5 out of the 6 next are lefties. Let's get Paige Lowry in here and throw 75 and from the left side and then get her out.
Yep.
So it was really fun. Like you said, kid in a candy shop. I got to stay up, watch some film, and say, all right, whenever this scenario arises, we're going to do this. It was a ton of fun. I learned a lot, and now I feel like I can bring that experience to Illinois and do some of the same things.
Yeah, of course. You can't talk about this, but I know you have another lefty coming in 2022. You can't mention. I can, because she's one of my high school players, Delaney Chumley, and I'm really excited about get to coach her this spring after missing last year. So you got more lefties coming, so a little bit more help. I will now. A couple of kids that I know on your team. You've recruited a lot of local kids. You've been able to in Illinois. You brought in some local kids. I know. I actually coached a couple of kids that you have. Jesse Damery, who is a freshman, local kid, and also Laken Wagner, who's a grad transfer. I got to coach them in the travel circuit over the years. And so you're able to recruit locally and bring those kids in. How does that really bolster your program, being able to get those local?
Yeah, it does in a lot of ways. First and foremost, there's a ton of talent in Illinois, from Quincy to Chicago to Rockford, all of Danville. There is a ton of talent in Illinois. So our recruiting coordinator, Laura Trout, has really made it a mainstay to keep the home kids home as best as we can. And what that does, it really just increases our brand. We had Taylor Edwards a couple years ago. I feel like she had like her own fan base coming in and taking over the bleachers. And that's exactly what it does. It gets the public more interested in the program. It gets fanfare increased. And it makes people in the area want to invest in our program as they see these local kids going up against some nationally ranked teams and athletes. It makes it all more worthwhile for sure.
Yeah, Taylor Edwards is an interesting one. That's about as good an athlete as you're going to see when you just leave. I'm going to play. I might pitch now. I think I'll pitch and throw at 67, 68, and then I'll go play basketball my last year. I mean, that's
Yeah,
kind of impressive, impressive athlete right there.
it is. We are so proud of Taylor. Now she's joined the coaching ranks, and it's funny now. She'll call every now and then and be like, "These high school kids are giving me gray hair, gray hairs, Coach Lance." And I was like, "Oh, that sounds familiar." So yeah, she's accomplished so much just on the basketball court, on the softball field, in the classroom. Really proud of her. And again, another person that raises the brand because they want to really fight for the orange and blue because that's all they've ever known. You know what I mean? So you get a little bit of more intrinsic motivation from all those local kids. Taylor was definitely no different.
Yeah, so now I do have to give you a little bit of a hard time, though. You got the orange and blue now, but historically, you're a Mizzou guy, right? And so we have to, kind of razz you a little bit about that. I mean, you've gotten rid of all the Mizzou colors, though, now, right?
I have. My parents have not. I grew up in Missouri. I actually grew up an Illinois fan. I grew up an Illinois fan watching D Brown do his thing in 05, 06 days. That kind of got me on board. But when it was time to go to college, things didn't work out for Illinois, but I always had them in the back of my mind for sure. But I made my way back here. So yeah, all the black and gold is in the closet and it pretty much stays there. So
yeah. You might get in trouble wearing that around Champaign, so it probably wouldn't go over well. So they get it, but you've got a little background, and I don't know, people maybe softball's not the sport like a basketball, football, where people are always kind of watching it, but you've got a background also. Your pitching background, and you had some sisters that played, and then you kind of got into through that. But then also you got to work with, probably in my opinion, I attend a lot of these softball clinics. The two people that I love hearing talking pitching are Michael White and Beth Torina. And you got to work with one of those at LSU. Talk about your experience and what you gained from that.
Yeah, it was life-changing, honestly. At Mizzou too, they had Doug Gillis, who was a world-renowned men's fast pitch player on the U.S. national team. And then I went from that to Beth Torina. So I was a sponge at all times. I think whenever I went to LSU, I had like some very certain ways about how I thought this would go. And Beth really opened up some new things that I never even would have probably considered. But again, we were working with Rachel Fico and Carly Hoover and Ellie Waljaspers of the world. So yeah, I got mentored I was super, super lucky. Like, again, I was right place, right time type of thing happened. And I can't express how gratifying it was being in those moments with Beth, with Doug and Pete, and Aaron Earlywine. It really made me the coach I am today, for sure. But yeah, it was a great experience. The Bayou is a totally different culture that I had no idea was even a thing until I went there. They just got done with Mardi Gras. I know it's COVID edition, but it was crazy down there. But it was a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah, SEC. I mean, SEC softball wise is pretty impressive conference, and we were talking about hitting kind of taking over for college softball. When LSU gives up 13 runs to Alabama, that it's kind of definitely a hitting era right now. So
yeah, you can definitely tell. I was batting around the question in my head, like, I wonder who gained the most from all the off time, or who suffered the most from all the off time, and the hitters seem to be on the inside track for sure. And I think there are a lot more errors than we accustomedly see. That could be, anybody can go in a cage or a barn or a shed and hit off a tee, but it's hard to get a catcher and pitch, or it's hard to get someone to hit you ground balls. So I think we might be seeing a trend here for sure.
Yeah. So a little history. Those names you're bringing up, Aaron Earlywine, got to play against him back in the day. Now, Doug Gillis, see, I do have a little bit of a personal story with Doug Gillis. So one year he ended my season, like in the state tournament, he beat me 1-0 pitching. I was pitching on the other team. And then in the national tournament, we faced them. And I hit a home run off Doug Gillis, which is, trust me, I mean, that's a big deal, right? I mean, because he's really good. Yeah. but then they hit a 2-run double and beat me 2-1, so it still didn't
Yeah.
matter. So it is what it is. But great memories playing the game, and so it's fun to hear those names when you mention them. Those guys were fantastic players. I mean, much better than me, but every once in a while we get lucky. So
Yeah.
is there, as you kind of look at pitching philosophy, and I love talk pitching, and as you get into it, is there a pour, or is there power, finesse, or is it just kind of mix and match? You find girls that just get outs. Is there something you look for that kind of separates this kid from that kid for you?
I think the biggest thing I put a premium on these last few years is a good changeup. You can have your finesse and you can have your power, or you can have your kids like Brianna Wonderly, who would just locate the heck out of the ball and change speeds. You can have all that, but if you don't have a changeup, it's going to be really hard to neutralize some of those things. So now in recruiting, I'm putting a pretty big premium on changeups, because I do think they're the great equalizer to a lot of things. It opens a lot more doors if you are a power pitcher to throw maybe a little bit more on the wide of the plate. If you are that finesse pitcher, it might make your hard stuff seem a bit harder, even though it's not. So I have put a pretty big premium on that in the recruiting aspect of the game for sure.
Is there and I guess it's one of those things, you're getting kids who are 18, 19. Some of these kids have been pitching since they were 7 years old. They come in when they're 18, and I know they come to camps with you and things like that. But so they come in. How hard is it to? I mean, they've that how they are. Like they've had this pitching coach since they were 7, and we won this tournament. And you're trying to. How hard is it to kind of tweak things? Because I don't think you probably have time to overhaul everything, but you can make little tweaks to try and adjust things. How hard is it to get that kind of buy-in, or to make them, to get them to kind of change those little things?
Yeah, good question. It is hard for sure, but I do think we're getting them at the perfect time in their lives where everything is new. It's their first time away from home on a massive campus. Everyone's telling them all these new things to try and do and to experiment with. So I think it makes our job a little bit easier in that realm to say, hey, here's another thing to do. But their freshman year, we really just want to go with their strengths, in my opinion, and have some developmental talks down the road. That way there is some normalcy, there is some comfort for them. And then as we kind of progress a little bit, unless it's like a glaring weakness that we need to address right now, we can have those talks as they get a little bit more comfortable. And then that gives them time to put say into what is happening too. I think if I was just to tell them, hey, this is what's going to happen, you're not going to get much buy-in. I need them to actually foster some ideas and give them back to me. That way, if they think of it, then they're going to be more invested to do it. Is another thing that I've learned here. So that's kind of how I work around that.
Yeah, it's very important, I think, for those kids to really take ownership in it, because they believe in it a little more than, and sometimes they can see it.
Yes.
Like, it's easy for you to say, hey, if you don't do this, this is going to happen. Then they go out in a game and they do it and they give up a 3-run bomb and they're like, oh, maybe he was right. So maybe it's learning by experience opens those doors too. So is there
Yes.
so how much can you change? Like, how much can they gain? Like, you guys, obviously, I've seen a lot of the stuff that the basketball and football team do with their strength training. You guys are also really big on your strength training and developing their bodies. And how much can they gain? How much can a pitcher gain in the course of their 4 years, velocity wise? They come in at 57, 58. What can you get them to, you think? Or does it vary?
Yeah, I do think it varies, but I do think there is a good amount that you can accomplish in the 4 years. Sydney Sickles came in. I think her first bullpen as a freshman, she was maxing out at like 57 or 58, and now she's maxing out at like 63 to 64. Again, that's a huge kudos to our strength staff and everything that she's invested in, getting her body in the strongest possible shape. But I feel like in softball, a pitcher is really good at maybe throwing down in the zone a lot. As you get to college, we might have to develop that up in the zone pitch, whether it have like a curveball variation or what. That does take time. That takes years. Uh, so I don't know if I don't know if I hold behind like mouth, but by the time they leave, they look totally different. And I think a lot of people are going to see that in Sydney this year, just because she's been around the longest. You know, she's starting to throw more down the zone a little bit, which was never even a possibility her freshman year.
Yeah.
Again, that is a testament to her strength, getting really building up her wrist muscles so her wrist can do different things. Um, but yeah, I think with 4 years of intentional work, you can get a lot done for sure.
Yes, it's a and Sydney was all rise curve, early on. It's just keep throwing everything going up, 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 and then you get that, now if she can, have both levels, change eye levels, do those different things, that's definitely gonna make her even better there. So as you kind of look back, I mean, as you look to the future, how do you guys, last year obviously you didn't get to have a season, and last year you were young, but you felt like you had some young talent, and you felt like you were going to be, pretty competitive. And 2 years ago, obviously, you're very competitive. And how do you feel like you're going for the future? What do you think you're building, and where do you think you can go from here?
Yeah, I fully believe that we're going to contend for a Big Ten championship this year and in the coming years, in the near years to come. You know, whenever I first got here, we were still transitioning a little bit. Tyra was still in her second year whenever my first year was here. So now I feel like we have a lot of the kids in place as we mapped some of these things out a few years ago, to get the job done. And again, it's going to be moving parts with COVID and stuff, but I feel like within the next 3 to 4 years, we could contend for a Big Ten championship year in, year out, and that'll set us up nicely for the national scene because the Big Ten is so competitive, and they usually have about 2 to 3 hosts in the NCAA tournament. So once you get to that point, anything can happen. You know, you host a regional, get to a super regional, then it's all bets are off at that point.
Yeah, and we've seen some Big Ten teams do that. Minnesota a couple years ago, Michigan obviously is, year in and year out, and so you've seen some Big Ten teams have some really good success. Ohio State as well. So you guys, and Illinois' been there. They've been almost to the, they all came close before. So we're definitely something we're looking forward to. So as a pitching coach, what do you think's the hardest thing? We'll go a few short answer questions here. What's the hardest to defend? Is it power or is it speed? Which is the one that's hardest for you, maybe as a coach, to try and defend against?
Um, I would probably personally say speed. Speed kills. Speed has like no off days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again, I feel like a good changeup can neutralize a lot of power things. But you know, again, pitching for myself, you can make such a good pitch, and then you'll have like a Keanu Sterling type of a slapper come and like barely touch the ball, and then be on first base, and then first pitch steal second base. Like you gave up a double by making a really quality pitch. You literally just gave up a double, and the ball didn't even leave like 30 feet in front of home plate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Power stuff too, for sure. But I feel like they have a little bit more off days, and speed is just always there, always in your face. So
Yeah, I always hated pitching to guys who just would foul pitches off the first at bat of the game, and they hit like 10 balls into the third base dugout. A lefty slapper comes up there, and you're just like, dude, hit it fair. I mean, come on, this
I
is
don't
getting
know.
old, So,
Yeah, let's
but
get
yeah,
this over with.
yeah, no question, it's tough. So, as you look at kind of your team, and you say you have all the infield back, I mean, does that help you defend those things? You feel like your defense is going to be one of the strengths for this squad?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Avery Steiner is a third-year starter now. She's one of our captains at second base. Katie Wingert has a full year of experience under her belt, a year and a half really, with COVID. She's a transfer from Northern Illinois. And then Delaney Rummel played pretty much every game at third base last year. So yeah, I definitely do think it's going to be one of our strengths. You know, we were just talking earlier about ways we can shift and really give our defense another layer of advantage as we're pitching into a few things. But I do think defense is going to be one of our really big strengths this year for sure.
You mentioned shifts. That was going to be my next thing. So great segue. But how do it's obviously the game's changed over the years. I mean, it used to be this is where the second baseman stood, this is where the shortstop stood, and the third baseman may come in. But everybody you might shift a couple steps, but nothing. How much you've seen more and more shifts in softball? Maybe not like the major leagues do, where they've got everybody on one side of the field, but you've seen more shifts where people are moving people to one side of the field and shifting guys over or girls over. How do you think? How have you guys adjusted to that? The new analytics and the new way to shift and change the game.
Yeah, there is a ton of data out there, and we have spray charts generated for every single hitter we're gonna face. And again, it has where they're hitting, what counts they're hitting in, what pitches they're taking. I mean, it has everything you could possibly ever want. So now it's a matter of our pitchers consistently hitting their spots to pitch into these shifts, is the first question. And now that we have that box pretty much checked, how do we give our defenders a one-step advantage? Again, hindsight's only 2020. But I feel like the new thing right now is bringing that outfielder in for slappers. I think a lot of college teams are doing. They'll bring the right fielder in and play like a second shortstop and only two outfielders. That is actually one thing we messed in the pro league too with Paige Lowry, because she threw so hard. So yeah, it's definitely something we're gonna be exploring more conversations than we've probably ever had. I don't know if we'll do anything drastic. It'll probably be like 1 or 2 steps this way, and 1 or 2 steps that way to give us the extra little advantage there. But it's definitely something that's up and coming in our game for sure.
Yeah, I've seen that, the extra outfielder on the left side there, and it's kind of weird because you feel like this is really going to work, but then you make that one mistake and they pull it into the right field corner, and you're in big trouble because they're running all day, right? So
Right.
it can be a little dangerous.
Yeah, again, hindsight only 2020. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we're playing the averages. And I think that's what all that's about. So as you look at this weekend, what's it going to be like down there? I know you are playing like, series doubleheader this weekend against different teams. And then later on, it's like 3-game sets and stuff. So what are you expecting? Are there going to be fans in attendance, or what's it going to look like down there?
Well, it's going to be warm, which we're super excited about.
Better than here.
First and foremost. Yeah, there will be limited fans in attendance. Again, all 14 teams will be at this one site, playing at a lot of different fields. And we start out with Rutgers the first day, Maryland, and then Michigan on the back end. And I don't know if I said this on the start, but I think pitching depth is going to be so huge in this whole key to really get things done, because 6 games in a weekend is something we've never done before. No one on our roster has done before. So it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. So pitching depth is going to be key. But I think above all else, everyone is just going to be so incredibly grateful for the opportunity to play, that there's going to be a lot of emotions involved. And I know from my vantage point, I'm just going to be telling them to enjoy the moment. And it could be taken from us at any given time. So go out there, take it all in, enjoy the moment, and just play and compete.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I mean, it's just one of those things. I mean, softball's such a fast game. I don't think people necessarily who don't watch it don't appreciate the speed of the game. How athletic the girls are, and what a fun game it can be. And there's a lot of home runs now, especially if you're at Oklahoma. They hit a lot of home runs. So,
Yeah.
But so if you hit 13 in a game, that's pretty good. So, but I guess that's pretty good. So
you're doing something right.
Is there so as you go down there, when are you guys taking off?
Thursday morning.
Yeah. Thursday morning, and then you'll play
Thursday
Friday,
morning.
Saturday, Sunday. Is that the way it works?
Yep. Friday 2-2-2 doubleheader, Rutgers, Maryland, Michigan. Yeah.
Is there and so I guess it's for you guys, it's a little bit weird because it used to be more of a you play like a series, like maybe single game, doubleheader, single game, 4-game series on a weekend. It's obviously different. For a lot of the girls, though, they're used to playing, these 6 games in a weekend thing because that's what they grew up doing, So for them, it's probably a little bit different. Does it mean that you need more depth, not just at pitcher, but also behind the plate and also in the other positions too?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with COVID, with the extra year given, a lot of everyone's roster sizes are enlarged right now. So it did give us the ability to maybe tinker with some of the scheduling experimentation that we're doing, or lack thereof, I guess. But yeah, I think everybody is important at this point, especially, God forbid that we get anybody into quarantine or situation. I think every team is probably going to go really deep on their bench, again, just to last the long haul, going through the whole 6-game weekend. And not only that, we're trying to play through May and early June. So again, we want to win right now, obviously, but we have bigger pictures in mind as well. So
And no Big Ten tournament this year, so it's going to be the Big Ten schedule, and then you hopefully head into the NCAA tournament at the end. So it's going to look a little different there too.
yeah, and it was unfortunate. We were set to host in 2020, so there is no Big Ten tournament this year. It will be a different feel, but I think you hit the nail on the head. These kids are used to playing so much. It might have a travel ball feel to it down there in Florida. This first couple weekends, with all the teams being on one site, and all the complexes with so many fields. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Well, will the games be televised? Can they stream them?
Right now, BTN Plus is going to stream them, which is the Student U organization, and I think they're still working with Flow Softball to get those on their site as well.
Awesome. Well, that's great. I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys play out this spring and getting an opportunity to see what you guys can do. I'm very, very excited to see see the Big Ten. I mean, there's no easy games. This is all Big Ten, so you guys just dive right in and with both feet and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think everyone's going to be so grateful to play. It's going to provide a little bit of an adrenaline rush for sure each game, I think. So the competition is going to be high, but we are looking forward to it.
All right. Well, hey, thanks, Lance. I appreciate you coming on. Don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you're gonna probably start getting packed. Get the orange and blue stuff. Make sure you get that, and not the black and gold stuff, out of the closet, and then we'll kind of we'll go from there. So, Lance McMahon, Fighting Illini pitching coach. They're getting ready to start the softball season this weekend down in Florida. This is Sturdy for 30. Thanks for listening.